Our phones have 4 different signals. Actually, there's the cell signal, there's the Wi-Fi signal, the Bluetooth, and the GPS. Putting it in airplane mode turns off all of those signals except for GPS.
Welcome to Wellness, your ultimate guide to unlocking your full human potential through biohacking. I'm your host, Ashley Deeley. I'm a certified sports nutrition coach, former personal trainer, and Pilates instructor, and I have a degree in Kinesiology. My goal is to help you improve the quality of your life. When you leave a review on any streaming app, or if you swipe up on Spotify and give me 5 stars, it helps listeners just like you find this hidden health information faster. If you're constantly wearing Bluetooth headphones, I have some surprising news for you. Your headphones are constantly emitting EMFs, electromagnetic fields. EMFs are classified as a Group 2B carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which can cause headaches, fatigue, ringing in the ears, even fertility issues. Thankfully, there's a lot of ways to reduce your exposure. The first way is to stop using Bluetooth headphones and don't put your phone near your head. Just using wired headphones can still conduct EMFs. That's why I love anti-radiation headphones, which are like normal wired headphones, but safer. It's one of the best ways to reduce your EMF exposure. To find out which headphones I love, visit ashleydeeley.com/headphones. That's ashleydeeley.com/headphones. You spend about 1/3 of your life in bed, so the material you sleep on matters. Traditional mattresses are made with synthetic materials and fire retardants, and if you're going to spend at least 8 hours in bed, your body should be able to rest and relax and not breathe in harmful toxins. I would also never dream of sleeping on a mattress made with metal coils. The bed that I sleep on is made with a blend of beautiful, organic, GOTS certified cotton, wool, and it has a breathable surface and interior. Visit ashleydeeley.com/mattress. That's ashleydeeley.com/mattress. Today's guest is Kylen Ribeiro, CEO of DefenderShield, a company dedicated to creating advanced shielding technology which protects against electromagnetic radiation emitted by modern electronic devices. Kylen is a key executive who's been a central part of the company's growth since joining in 2017, helping to pioneer the digital wellness space alongside co-founders Ryan and Daniel DeBon. But before she became a leader in tech wellness, Kylen grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and moved to Tallahassee, Florida to complete her lifelong swimming career at Florida State University, where she served as the women's swimming and diving team captain. Kylen graduated with a BS in marketing and management and married her fellow teammate turned husband. One of the reasons Kylen joined DefenderShield was because of the cutting-edge technology it provided. DefenderShield is the only company that uses a range of scientifically tested shielding materials which can conduct, absorb, and dissipate up to 99% of EMF emissions from 0 to 90 gigahertz, including the entire 5G spectrum. No other mobile device shielding in the world blocks frequencies up to 90 gigahertz. Today, we dive into why it's important to keep your devices off your body, why laptops aren't meant for your laps, and why pockets aren't meant for your phones. We talk about how you shouldn't be holding your phone to your head, why kids shouldn't be using wireless headphones, and how you can even mitigate damage from blue light from your devices. Kylen, welcome to Wellness.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and talk to your audience today.
Oh yes, there is so much to talk about today, especially in the world of EMFs. When I tell people to turn off their Wi-Fi at night, they look at me like I have 3 eyes. So can you tell me, what are EMFs?
Absolutely. So EMFs stand for electromagnetic radiation fields. And we shorten it by just calling it EMFs. And if you've never heard of it, essentially it's all of the signals that come out of all of our digital devices, such as cell phones, tablets, laptops, Wi-Fi routers, 5G, any smart devices. So anything you can think of that communicates wirelessly, that's what EMFs are.
They sound harmless. They're just some invisible frequencies that come out of our devices. They don't sound too bad.
A lot of people like to believe that they might not be harmful, because they are non-ionizing. So we've all heard of like X-rays and ionizing radiation, like nuclear bombs and whatnot. And we know that's harmful, obviously. And that's why we wear the lead vest when we get an X-ray. However, EMFs fall on the non-ionizing spectrum, which is, I would say, it's more insidious, and it's more slower acting, and it's more over time we can see harmful effects of these signals on our bodies. And there are many studies that do show that there's a range of health effects, from feeling like your hands are tingling, brain fog, even fertility effects. And then I don't even, we try not to fearmonger, but, all the way up to, cancers and, changing our DNA and cell fragmentation. So that is what we like to practice at Defender Shield and preach, is the precautionary principle. So because we know that there have been studies showing negative health effects, why not do things to protect ourselves? Even if in 30 years everything's fine and there are no problems with it, there could be. And science has shown that there are. So that's kind of how we stand on the subject.
I like the way that you explain that. And I'm pretty sure it's the International Research of Cancer. They've classified EMFs as a type 2B carcinogen. If you look in your iPhone, there's a disclaimer that says, do not put your phone next to your head.
You're exactly right. And we actually like to compare the cell phone industry, or this newer technology to our bodies, to the smoking of like the generation before us or two generations before us. So when smoking first started, becoming very popular and everyone was doing it, science actually knew that there were negative health impacts to smoking. However, it was not in the broad media. And so after 20 or 30 years, when people started seeing the health effects and getting lung cancer and all, COPD and all of these negative health effects, it was only then that it was like a big crisis. And so we hope that that doesn't happen, but we are concerned that that is sort of the way that we're going with this, because it is relatively new technology to our human bodies. In the scheme of evolution, like we've only had this stuff for like 20, 30 years, and it's only exacerbating and becoming more and more prevalent in our lives.
I always like to tease people with they should go do a Google search of Murray versus Motorola and how EMFs can cause tumors in the brain. And it's a fascinating case.
Yes, absolutely. And we do know over the past 20 years, frontal lobe brain cancer has increased exponentially. It may be a coincidence, but I mean, that's where we have our phones. So all we like to do is, talk about solutions and talk about ways we can mitigate this exposure and reduce our exposures in our environment for ourselves and our kids and our families. Because living in fear these days, obviously it can be very easy to be very fearful of just our environments in general. But, this is the world we're in, and we have to like take control over our own environments as much as we can. And that's all we can do.
I like the idea of not living in fear, but providing solutions instead. Do you have any thoughts on cell phone towers, Kylen?
We know that that's where the cell phones, connect to get a signal. And we try to encourage people to not live within like a mile of a cell tower. Of course, you can't always control where you live, and you can't always control how close you are. We know that is not possible for everyone. So the solution that we have in that situation is we do have shielding that can be put on a wall. And so it would be ideal to put our shielding up on the wall, say in your bedroom, because that's where you spend the most uninterrupted time, on the wall in between where the cell tower is and like your bed. So that's a solution. It's not moving like that's ideally what you would do, but we understand that absolutely is not possible for everyone. And also 5G has the small cell site towers that are popping up everywhere, especially in more concentrated cities and areas. And Same thing, you might have been living somewhere for 10 years and then suddenly there's one near your front yard. And uh, it's very concerning, but we can only control our our homes and ourselves. So, putting up the shielding, keeping the Wi-Fi router off at night, things like that. And I'm sure we'll get into more tips and tricks later on.
Let's get into those tips and tricks now. So when you say shielding, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of someone who isn't familiar with what we're talking about. And when I hear the word shielding, I'm like, are we talking about putting chicken wire on the walls? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so shield is basically a piece of material. It is incorporated into all of our products. So for example, I have my cell phone case right here. We incorporate highly specialized shielding into the front cover so that when I'm talking on the phone, there's not direct body contact between my phone emitting a signal and my brain. So we use that concept in all of our products, and we use shielding that we have developed to be to protect against the highest range of frequencies than anything else on the market. So it does include the current 5G, and we're always thinking ahead. So 6G is going to be even higher on the spectrum. So we have already come up with solutions for that. So the shielding that you would put on your wall is basically like a wallpaper that you can, you know, put on the wall and have it be like a blocking from one side to the other, and nothing will go through. None of the signals will go through. But I do, since you want to talk about tips and tricks, we think of EMF reduction in like 3 ways. So the first way is time spent on your devices, reducing that as much as possible. And we know that it's very difficult these days in our electronic world and people having to work from home and on their laptops constantly. But when you don't have to be using a device or in front of a screen, take a break. Simple as that. The second factor is distance. So the further you have your device away from your body, the better off you are. So for example, when you're sleeping, we should not keep our cell phones right beside our bed with just on or even charging. Airplane mode is a great solution for that if you do like to use it for an alarm or something. But even ideally, it's out of the room or across the room from you. So that's distance. So keeping our things away from our body. When you're using a laptop, not having it directly on your lap, having it on a table. The third is the solutions that we provide. DefenderShield provides shielding. So if you are going to have your laptop on your lap, we have a solution for that. It's called a Defender Pad, and it has our highly specialized shielding inside so that you know that the emissions coming from the bottom of the laptop are not reaching your lap and your sensitive organs down there. So we have solutions for basically whatever your lifestyle may be, whatever devices you may use, that we have a full range of things that can help just mitigate and reduce your exposure, and for your family as well.
Everything you're talking about is right up my alley. And I first learned about EMFs in 2008 when I'm pretty sure everyone had flip phones. But I remember reading a magazine article that said, do not put your laptop on your lap as it can heat up your internal organs, reproductive organs, and cause damage. I think one of the things that I specifically read in that article was that it can cause a reduction in sperm count. And this was 2008, which I don't think anybody knew about radiation back then.
So that is exactly why our company was founded. Actually, I am the current CEO of DefenderShield, but the company was founded by a father and son, Daniel and Ryan DeBon. Daniel DeBon, who's still involved and comes every day to the office, he was an engineer for 30 years in the telecom industry, and he dealt with shielding, but for electronic device communication interference. So he was highly knowledgeable about the different shielding and frequencies and ranges of, on the whole EMF spectrum. One winter, during like Christmas break, both of his sons were visiting from wherever they lived at the time, and they were working with their laptops on their lap. And Dan's wife, June, said, "Hey, I want grandkids one day. Get those laptops off your lap." And he got to thinking, and he's like, I've been working with this stuff for a long time. Like there's no negative health effects. This is non-ionizing radiation that's coming out of the laptops. But he's like, you know what? Let me just do a little research and see if there's anything I could buy to, so they could put it under their laptops. And when he started researching, he found like what you're saying in that article that you read, that there are negative impacts from not only the heat, but also the actual radiation itself. So it's twofold. It is the heat that's not good, but it's also the actual signals that are coming out that are not good. And sure enough, there was nothing on the market that was the solution for the full blocking of the full spectrum. So he made one, and that was our first product, and the rest is history. So it actually stems from a very similar, story, and an innocent, just trying to help his sons, in their reproductive health. But it's definitely true that it after just like 30 minutes of exposure, it reduces sperm motility by like 50%, and it's just very direct correlation to that. And it can also affect female fertility.
I wish more people knew about this. I remember during COVID, when everybody was working from home, I was walking on the beach. I lived in Sydney at the time, and I saw these two guys sunbathing, and they had their laptops literally right on top of themselves. And I was like, how do we get the word out about how much harm our devices can cause?
That's really our passion and our mission, is education and awareness around the topic, and sharing the latest research and having tons of resources on our website. We even have a great customer service team that if anyone calls us, they can ask any question and kind of get the answers that they're looking for, because it can be very confusing to try to do research. You hear a lot of conflicting things. You hear it's safe, it's not safe. And we just say, if there's a potential that it's not safe, why not take steps to, mitigate our exposure? Because we don't really know. The truth is, we don't know in 20 or 30 years how this stuff will have affected us after being around it for so long. Even if it's a low, kind of like a slow burn, but it's just the constant load that our bodies are under.
I also liked what you had mentioned earlier about putting your cell phone away from you while you sleep. I've spoken to people who say, oh, I put it on airplane mode, but they still keep it on their nightstand and it's right in line with their head. So, to your point, I give them the same advice. If you have to have it in the room, put it on the floor, put it on the dresser far away. What does airplane mode do?
Our phones have 4 different signals. Actually, one phone has 4 signals coming to and from. So there's the cell signal, there's the Wi-Fi signal, the Bluetooth, and then the GPS. So in one little device, you have 4 different types of signals going on at different
That sounds
frequencies.
concerning.
It does, right? And if you think about the room you're in, you may have a laptop, you may have a Wi-Fi router, you might have a smart like Alexa or Google Home. Like there's just so many different things that are in one room that could be emitting. And that's what we're trying to do today, is educate people, right? And just bring awareness to all of the sources that you may not even be thinking of. So putting it in airplane mode turns off all of those signals except for GPS. So that's essentially what it does. So and GPS is like a satellite signal, but that reduces, 3/4 of the different types of emissions that are coming out of the phone. So definitely a big improvement. And I also like to say better is better. Even just little small things are better than nothing.
And by little small things, I imagine you give the same advice that I give, which is don't ever put your phone on your body. There are people who just watch TV with their phone literally right on their leg, and I'm like, move it.
Exactly. If you just bringing the awareness to people. If you're sitting on, just simply put your phone an arm's reach distance away. Like that is better than having it sitting on your body. You're not even using the phone, right? You're just having it on your body. And that obviously over time can just increase the effects that we're seeing. And the more time we're spending and the more distance the closeness that we are to our devices can all exacerbate these effects. So exactly, very little things, simply like moving the phone from here to there, it can make a big difference, really.
I had a functional medicine doctor one time who told me, don't create a triangle of EMFs in your office. And what she meant by that was don't have your computer in front of you, your printer behind you, and your phone or your Bluetooth mouse on the other side of you. And that was the first time I heard that information, but I was like, it really makes sense.
Right. So if you think about, okay, I've got my laptop, and most people don't use an Ethernet cable, which we do recommend when possible because it's hardwiring your device and it's eliminating the need for the wireless signal. However, let's just assume you're using the wireless signal. If your router, if you're in between your laptop and say the router's behind you, that signal, it's going through you, right? Because it's got to connect to the laptop. So the situational awareness of where things are located and where your body is definitely important as well.
Can you walk me through Bluetooth?
So Bluetooth is on the spectrum. It's very low. So it's like 0.3 megabytes. And it's a very, very low end of the spectrum. It's actually an extremely low frequency. So radio frequency is on the higher end of the spectrum, and extremely low frequency is on, I'm sorry, it's not extremely low frequency. That is anything that's plugged into a wall, such as a lamp, an alarm clock, that's on the extremely low frequency. However, Bluetooth is on the very, very low end of the radio frequency spectrum. So ELF, extremely low frequency, and radio frequency, RF, those two things combined make the EMF spectrum. So Bluetooth, I'm glad you brought it up, because what are we seeing a lot of people doing these days? Wearing AirPods,
I was going to say.
And that is even newer than cell phones, even newer than Wi-Fi. It's the newest, I think, problem that we have around us, because the amount of time that people keep these in their ears is very concerning. And the Bluetooth, so it connects to the phone, but then it also sends a signal through your brain and they connect to each other. So hours and hours a day spent with that in your head, we truly do not know the effects. I have heard people feeling headaches, migraines, brain fog, and then stopping using them, and those symptoms go away. So people do have actual physical feelings from having the Bluetooth, people that are hypersensitive. And we call this condition electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome. And it's recognized as a medical condition elsewhere, not in the US, but it is real, and it is something that it actually affects 20% of the population. A lot of people don't know that that's what is causing the symptoms that they might be having. I know that Bluetooth and AirPods, Bluetooth earbuds and whatnot are super convenient, and you're not attached to the phone, and you're you're free to move around. But our most popular product I have in my ears right now, these are air tube headphones. And this is our most popular product. They're wired, so there's a wire plugged in. There's a speaker here, and then the sound travels up the air tube. So your head and your ears are never exposed to a digital signal. And that is much better than having a Bluetooth signal. Even just wired headphones in general are much better than using Bluetooth headphones.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy, because I've been preaching about the dangers of Bluetooth headphones since I very, very first saw them. I try to avoid Bluetooth. I do have one or two devices that I like, but the fact that you guys have hollow ear tubes and they keep you far away from the device, that's one of my favorite products that you make.
Yeah, we didn't know how popular they would be, but they really are the most popular product. So the ones that we've had forever have a 3.5 millimeter jack. So that's like the circular, just like standard jack you could put in your laptop. And we now released a USB-C version, because now most phones are USB-C. So those have been awesome. We also have overhead ones. So people that don't like earbuds, we have like the overhead ones that are, the bigger, style. And those are also like one of our top products. So
You couldn't pay me to use Bluetooth headphones. I don't care how much money you would give me, I would never wear them. I also think it's important to mention the myelin sheath that adults have. And it's concerning to me how many children have Bluetooth headphones that are getting the symptoms that you mentioned, potentially ringing in the ears, headaches.
Yes, kids in general, because they are more vulnerable to all of this stuff and all of these signals because their bodies are made more of water, and water conducts electricity better than less water. And then their cells are multiplying so quickly. So if there is any sort of damage done to their DNA or their cells later in life, we might see the effects of that with these children these days, and mine included. Just because, I mean, we're hoping not, but because they're being exposed at such a young age, and their bodies they're not as resistant and resilient as adult bodies. I'm sure you've seen, and many, maybe other people of your audience have seen, that there's an image that kind of's been floating around for years. And it's showing a cell phone put up to like an adult male's head. And the cell phone signal goes 2 inches into the skull. Then it shows a 6-year-old child in the same cell phone, and the signal goes actually through their head to the other side. So that just goes to show that children are more susceptible, and we need to absolutely educate them and protect them. And that's something I'm specifically passionate about because I do have my own kids, and they're younger. They're like 9 and 4, but I feel so lucky that I'm aware, and obviously our company's a leader in this industry in education, but I have the knowledge to be able to share with my kids, how we should safely use our devices, and just how, like, they're growing up knowing, like, they don't put a tablet on their lap. We use a DefenderShield tablet case. When they mostly use it should be in airplane mode. Like, all these little things that we can teach our children, and then they'll grow up knowing how to use their tech safely, because obviously the tech's not going away, and we can't shield it from them their whole lives, even though I would love to do that. It's just not possible.
I think this is a really good segue, Kylen, to say or to ask, what do you do with your kids who have these wired devices and they're not allowed to put their devices on their bodies when I'm sure all their friends have Bluetooth headphones?
I'm not there yet with my kids, but I've talked to so many other moms, even other podcast hosts who have like teenagers. And I just feel like it's so hard for us as parents these days with all this technology and devices. And we're not even going to get into like the content on the devices. We're going to really just stick to like the devices themselves. But it's unpopular. It's not going to be the popular thing. Like, my kids are probably going to be the only kids without, without AirPods or the wireless Bluetooth. And I I don't care. you know. Um I can't speak to having kids. Like, honestly, like, my 9-year-old, like, he doesn't have really friends with like Bluetooth earbuds or anything like that, but I know that is coming very soon, in the next like 2-3 years. Like, he's going to have a lot of friends with this stuff. Even kids with cell phones, some kids are getting cell phones at like 10, 9. Does my 9-year-old ask for a cell phone? Absolutely. And I laugh and I just say, maybe a flip phone when you're like 14. But I'm just like, what do you like need a cell phone for, actually? I was like, I got one when I was 16 because I was driving, and it was a flip phone. And yes, I begged and begged and begged for that phone, but I was driving and I might need to use it. I'm like, what do you need it for? Like, you're a child.
Can we bring back those brick Nokias and you can be like, here's your cell phone?
No, literally. I was like, oh, I'll get you a phone. Maybe when you're like 14, you'll get a flip phone and you'll have to figure out how to text with the the 3 letters on the same number situation. But he probably wouldn't even want it at that point and be like, oh, forget it. So like, I can't judge or speak because I haven't been through that yet, where it's like the time where all the friends are getting everything. And I know that's going to be like the most difficult time, because I know how incessant kids are, and especially teenagers, when they want something or all their friends have it. Like, I have no advice for that because I haven't been through it. But I will say, I'm empathetic towards the moms that are going through it right now. And I know that's going to be me soon, because it is so hard. And especially if they, say I go on a podcast and I'm talking to the host, and she hasn't, I go on like business podcasts. So they're not always health topic related. And so sometimes they really don't have the awareness that like you and your listening audience might have around this topic. And you can see light bulbs going off like the whole time. They're like, oh my gosh, like I let my teenager have their phone in the room. Oh my gosh. And they're like, I'm going to have to stop this. I'm going to have to create some better boundaries. And my advice is like, create the boundaries first and don't allow it to get off and let the train run away. Because I think once you allow too much, it's really hard to pull it back. If you are allowing your kid to like sleep with their phone in the room, or like, just not having limits and boundaries on it, like it's much easier to give than to take away. So that's like what I'm planning on doing with my kids. And I mean, I'm doing it now, but also just keeping your kids busy in activities and playing outside and things like that. It's just like naturally reducing their time on the screens.
I appreciate that advice. And it also reminds me, I listen to podcasts like it's my job. I want to learn as much as I can. And I listened to this heartbreaking podcast where these parents let their daughter go to sleep every night with her phone in her bedroom. And she had confessed to one of her best friends that she slept with her phone under her pillow in case anybody texted her or needed to get a hold of her. And her entire personality changed. And I reckon it was because those EMFs were so close to her brain and penetrating through her skull.
The devices themselves, let's set aside the radiation emitting from them. They're built to be addicting. All the apps are built to be addicting. And who's more vulnerable than a teenager, and more impressionable and more like, I want to be cool and have this app and use this, and that's how all my friends are talking. Like, it is just a very like sad place that we're in right now. And I really hope that there's some kind of reckoning where it's like, do you want, I drive by kids at the bus stop and they're literally standing there just staring at their phones. Like, I pointed out to my kids, I'm like, look, like, that's not going to be you. I will not let that be you. Like, that's why we don't get a phone. Like, that's not okay. Like, they should be talking to each other. They should be running around. Like, that's what kids are supposed to do. Like, and it just really like affects me, because it's just sad. And I hope that the more awareness like parents have, they can start to be like, no, this is not okay. Like, we're not going to have your phone in your room. If you feel like your child needs a phone, you're the parent, you can decide that. But, and I know that a lot of parents feel like it's a safety thing, and that's fine. I'm not judging anyone. And I'm not there where my kids are a little bit more independent. Like, maybe I'll change my mind, but it's just the limits, setting boundaries with it is like, but we have to be the example of that, right? Like, we can't be scrolling at, on our phone while we're with our kids. And meanwhile, telling them they can't do that, or telling them they need to get off the screens. Like, it's being very hypocritical. So I know, like, as adults and parents, like, a lot of us do work from our phone, and need it for communication and things like that. But even just like talking to your kids and saying, hey, I have some messages I need to answer, or I need to do emails right now, or I need to, whatever it is, like, explain, like, I'm actually using this for work purposes, or, talking to so-and-so, so that they don't think you're just like mindlessly, not paying attention to them, or telling them not to do something that you're also doing.
And you bring up such a good point about kids being in front of their devices all day. I read an article that said so many kids are getting myopia today because they're glued to their devices. And if it's not their phone in front of them, then it's their computer or the TV. And also, to your point, Kylen, I have a friend with a 10-year-old, and he brought home a drawing one day that he made at school. It showed his parents on their devices. My friend had asked him about it, and he said, well, you're always on your phone.
I bet that was a big eye opener for her. So many of us can get caught in that. So again, just be aware And I know that our phones are also addicting to us. They're addicting to everyone, not just kids, but also
Mm-hmm.
adults. And it's like we it's we have to set our own boundaries for ourselves, like just putting the phone in another room when you're with your kids and it's like, let's play a game, like let's interact, whatever. It's just once you start practicing that, it just becomes easier. And we it, that like hurts my heart. I'm sure she felt like, oh my gosh, that's how my son sees me. Like it's like we sometimes need to see it from another perspective to see like how we're being viewed, especially from our kids. It's like the most important. Um, so yeah, that is it's a struggle for all of us, and it's like it's just how it is these days. But it's another level of parent, like a challenge in parenting that like our parents didn't have to deal with.
I know.
Like it's hard enough being a parent, but then you layer on this technology and these devices and these apps and all these extra challenges. Like it's exhausting out there.
Oh. I recently had to get a new phone because the way the world works, your phone just doesn't keep up. And I went to the cell phone store and the guy was like, "Oh, you can get the 17. You can get this 17, that 17, 17 Pro." I forget what it was. And I said, "I want a 16." And he goes, "Well, we don't have any in the store. We're going to have to order it for you." And he goes, "You could get a 17 today." And like talks all about the 17. And I said, "I really want a 16. I don't care if the 17 costs the price of the 16. I only want the 16." And he finally said, "Why?" And it's because the 17 has 50% more blue light emitting from it than any other smartphone on the market, which means it will age your face faster and it can damage your thyroid as well.
Yes, so that's a very interesting story. And actually, in fact, when it was the 16 was a new phone, I had to get a new phone, which I hate doing. I hate getting new stuff. It's such a pain. But my phone screen just completely stopped working. So it was cheaper to get the newest phone than not the newest phone.
No!
And it was like crazy. I'm like, I mean, I guess I'll just get the newest one. I wanted like the oldest one. I was like, what's the oldest
Yes!
one? And they're like, oh, well, it's way more expensive. I'm like, are you serious?
No, I want the one that has the thumbprint again. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I would have my iPhone 6 if I could still. We actually have a solution. It's a supplement for blue light filtering. So it's for your eyes. And you mentioned blue light, but blue light, aside from the things you mentioned, it can also affect our sleep. There is blue light that naturally occurs from sunlight, which is good blue light. But the artificial blue light, which we are inundating ourselves with all of our screens and our lights and our bulbs, that tells our bodies not to go to sleep after it turns nighttime. So the later we're on our phone and the more blue light exposure we have, the harder it's going to be for us to get good sleep. And obviously sleep is when we recover and when we heal and when we grow and our brains do the job they need to do. The supplement, it actually builds up a resiliency in the back of the eye to the blue light. So this, not only using the supplement, but also blue light glasses in combination for when you are looking at a screen, especially at night. We have blue light glasses. DefenderShield sells them. We have 50% blocking and 100%. After nighttime, you do need 100% of the blue light blocked because it will affect your sleep. And I personally could tell absolutely a difference if I'm not using my glasses versus using my glasses. So the supplement, the blue light blocking glasses, both can help, reduce your exposure to the blue light, but also just on the screen itself, making it warm toned. We can definitely reduce the exposure a lot. Of course, we try to say don't be on your screen an hour or 2 hours before bed. It's not always possible. But if you are, taking the supplement daily, I do want to mention too, a lot of people feel a lot of symptoms from staring at their laptop. So say if they have to be at their laptop all day or their computer screen, you can get dry eyes, you can get migraines, you can get eye fatigue, just a lot of negative effects from staring at that screen. So what the supplement also does is provide eye hydration. So not only does it build up resiliency to the blue light, eye hydration is reduced when we're staring at a screen because we actually blink less. So that's an interesting, phenomenon that happens when we're looking at a screen. We blink less. So that makes our eyes drier. So the supplement also improves eye hydration. And we have got some really good testimonials from people that are like, I was miserable. I didn't know what to do because I have to work on my computer, but it just was killing my eyes. And then they started taking our supplement and they're like, oh my gosh, it's such a relief and it feels so much better.
What is it? I have to interrupt you. You keep saying this supplement. What
It's
is
called,
in it?
It's actually another brand that we created, but we also sell it on our DefenderShield website. It's called Total Eye Health Plus Blue Light Filter. You can buy it on our website. You can buy it on Amazon, but it's really, and like, it actually works. Like a lot of supplements, you take it and you know that it's healthy for you to take it, but do you really feel a difference? Like usually I would say not so much. This one, if you really have negative effects and your eyes are having a lot of problems, people feel a lot of relief after taking the supplement.
Is there astaxanthin in it?
There is.
I love that so much. And also one of my favorite beauty companies, they make a topical astaxanthin that you can put on your face. And so when I have to work past sunset, I'll wash my face and I'll coat it in astaxanthin so that it's blocking the blue light.
I've never heard of that. I love that. Yeah,
I
same
will share it
idea.
with you.
Yes, please. Yeah, you're right, because it ages us. The blue light ages us.
Yes.
So
I've also heard for tips and tricks that you can turn 5G off. You can toggle 5G off so that it's only running on LTE.
absolutely, you definitely can. It's in the settings. It's comes with it automatically on, of course. Very easy to turn it off, and I recommend everyone do that. I have had mine off since the day I got my phone, and sometimes it doesn't have the best service, but it's not worth it's not worth
Right.
the downsides of the 5G.
Yes, I feel the same way. And so I ended up buying the 16 and it has no battery, almost worse than I think I was on a 13 or 14. But to your point, I was like, well, that means I just shouldn't be on it as often.
I also have the 16 and it definitely does not have a good battery, but that's how they make them, right? Because they want you to get sick of it in like a year and be like, I need a new phone. So yeah, interestingly, a lot of our customers, not interestingly, but it makes sense. A lot of our customers have older phones and they keep their phones for a long time because, every generation and iteration of these new iPhones are more radiation emitting, more blue light emitting. And does it really perform like that much better than like 3 or 4 years old phone? Like not really. So it's interesting. A lot of our older phone cases actually sell so strong, like years and years after the phone has come out. So
I
that,
love it.
yeah,
I feel like the excuse is that, oh, but the camera is so good. And my confusion is, what are you doing with your camera that you need all these high pixels or high resolution?
I mean, if you're a filmmaker, okay, I understand. But like a normal person, I think, I don't know. It looks the same to me.
So, something else that I do to mitigate my EMF exposure and to keep my body running optimally is I turn Bluetooth off on everything that I have. I feel like these are small changes that make a big impact. What other tips and tricks do you have?
So your bedroom, it really should be a sanctuary. You're sleeping there. You're supposed to be getting the most restful sleep you can, and without the interference of the signals around you. So I highly encourage everyone, like, make sure you do not have your router in your bedroom. Um, do not have wireless. I know a lot of people these days have like Alexa or Google Home. Like, don't have those in your bedroom. If you have your phone, right, we've talked about that, turn it in airplane mode. I know, so I was talking to another podcast host where she was like, I cannot have my phone in airplane mode because I have teenagers and they go out and I need to get, have my phone. I totally get that. And when my kids are going out, I will not be able to sleep and I will need my phone on just in case. But put it away from you, put it across the room where you could still hear it, but just it's not right near your head. And recently, study came out that when a phone is charging and it's emitting like 50% more EMFs.
Yeah.
And that's like a newer information for us. So yeah, definitely don't charge your phone next to your head and next to your bed.
Or don't use it when you're charging it. I had a friend who said the only time I use my phone is when I'm charging it. So I try to minimize my time. And I'm like, but you're maximizing your EMF exposure.
It was like the right thought, but like not good execution. So we like to compare like the sources of EMFs like bees in a room. We compare it to bees in a room. So one bee is never going to kill you. 1,000 bees will kill you. So like it's reducing the amount of sources is another tip. So like just looking around, what are the sources? Do you have smart like appliances? Like why do we need that? I don't know. But like do you have smart appliances? Do you have, a wireless baby monitor? Like there's so many things you might not think of, but just look around your room and try to identify all the sources of EMFs. And then how can you reduce that? Either remove that from the room, don't use it, or turning it off. Simply turning it off, like turning your Wi-Fi router off at night. Great. That completely turns that signal off the whole night long while you're sleeping. So the distance, the time, the amount of sources, and shielding, so we have so many other solutions. Like you don't have to buy DefenderShield products to protect yourself. You do need some type of shielding. However, to reduce your exposure, you don't need DefenderShield products or any products for that matter, because just simply doing the things like we talked about, keeping it away from your body and reducing the time you spend on them, great. Those are massive improvements you can make. And then if you want to have an additional layer of protection, we have just a solution for any kind of lifestyle and any device. So we're available on our website, Amazon, and DefenderShield.com. So I can't even start to like go through all the products because we have like 140 different ones. But our most popular ones are definitely cell phone cases, because that's the thing most people use the most. That's the device that we're like connected to the most. The air tube earbuds, that is like the top product. Blankets are a huge seller for us. So blankets are so versatile. They're good for kids. They're good for adults. They're good for travel. When you're on the couch, if you're using your laptop, if you're using your phone, it just is like a portable, shield that you can bring everywhere, around your house. And those are like the top most popular products.
You had mentioned smart devices, your Googles, your Alexa, your baby monitors. What makes smart devices so concerning?
Well, it's just another source of EMFs, and they're always on, unless you turn them off. So, when something's off, they're not emitting anything. So off is best. But when they're on, I personally think it's weird to talk to like a device. I mean, sometimes I talk to Siri, on my phone, but like having something in your home, and I hope I'm not offending anyone. I don't know. It's just like odd to me. And I know it's super convenient, but like it's always there emitting, because the whole idea is, right, it's always listening to you, so you can ask it to do stuff. And like if it's off, you have to remember to turn it on. Like I'm sure people keep them on most of the time. So I would just encourage people, like, A, don't use it, like get rid of it, or B, like make sure you turn it off, especially at night. And the other side is just like it is always listening, so that's just like concerning to me, like a privacy. I mean, our phones listen anyway, but it's just another source of data that is being gathered on us. And I will also mention, because we have a whole line of products, for protecting ourselves for our health. But then we also have a line of products that are actually for privacy and security of devices. So hacking, tracking, getting your device attacked and scanned by these antennas that can be miles away, Key fobs can be, there was actually I was just on the phone with our accountant yesterday, and she was telling me she lives out in California. There was a neighborhood where like dozens of cars were stolen because the thieves were driving by and people kept, we all keep our keys by the front door, and they were just scanning the key fob and they used that to remotely start the car and they were able
No
to,
way.
yes. So it's not only for health purposes, but like protecting our privacy and our data in our cars from being stolen. So we have a line of Faraday bags, our Ultra Armor line, and that protects like your phone or your laptop, especially during travel. We have a bag for like your passport and your credit cards and stuff, because while you're out in public or traveling, it's like very highly susceptible to, I mean, people can, like in a crowded airport, they can have a device walk by you and just it can read your credit card number. You know, this is happening all over the place. So not only do we have to worry about our body health, we have to worry about our data and our information on our devices.
I remember when GPSs first came out and you would install them into the windshield of your car. And I remember reading on an email thread, or maybe my mom told me years ago, when you enter your home address, enter the neighbor's address or enter a cafe or a store nearby, because if a thief were to get into your car, they know exactly where you live. And if you parked your car at the airport, they could then drive to your home and rob your home. So it makes sense that you would have those built-in privacy features.
Yep, I used to. That was, yeah, that was the thing back then when we had like the Tom Tom or
Yeah.
the ones that go on the windshield. But it's funny how,
Yes.
yep, it's just in our phone now.
Tell me about some of these products that you have for protecting moms to be or new babies.
We actually, so pregnancy, as you can probably believe, is like the growing fetus is when it's the most vulnerable to anything. So we want to encourage pregnant women to be aware and protect themselves. We have a belly band with shielding in the front, so you can wear that under. I wore that belly band every single day of my pregnancies, and I felt like really it gave me a peace of mind. So the belly band is a great solution. The blanket, for newborns, we actually, it's a scarf, but it really is a great what's the, when you wrap them up like a burrito really tight, swaddling.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
never good at swaddling, but that works perfectly as a swaddle. And we even have little baby like beanies. Um, and for kids, we have kids blue light glasses, so we can try to reduce the myopia, staring at screens in our kids. So we do have kids products and uh, pregnancy products. And we actually went recently to a Prego Expo, and we felt um, it was like the awareness was not really there, for having your phone near your belly. So I
Interesting.
think we were able to share a lot of knowledge with the pregnant future moms to be, and hopefully they took some of the stuff they learned and are, keeping their phone away from the belly, and
Yeah.
just being aware of like you're growing a child and it's most vulnerable while it's growing, and when it comes out, until they're an adult, starting from when they're in the womb all the way through life would be ideal to be aware and kind of protecting them from this stuff.
Also, you had mentioned you don't have to buy Defender Shield, but find ways to protect yourself. And I'm very skeptical about these harmonizers. I don't know if that's the right word. They look like little keychains, and people
Yes.
say, "Oh, just put them on your purse. Just wear a
Yes.
necklace and you'll be protected." And I'm very skeptical.
Yes, there are such things. Harmonizers, there are stickers, there are other devices that make claims, to make us feel like we're being 100% protected by these devices. And I can't really explain how they're supposed to work, but all I can say is if you're going to buy something, you should absolutely understand how it works. What we know about science and engineering is that there has to be a physical barrier to 100% block these signals. And that's what our products provide, is a physical barrier. And if you cut them open, you will see our shielding inside. I don't recommend doing that because you might ruin your product. But our shielding goes off to a military lab for third-party testing. It has the full spectrum of testing that shows how it performs at every single gigahertz. And it's just like, I don't know. I think it's easy to understand because you can see it or you can feel it. It's these types of products that have very recently, in the last 5 years, come on the market. We don't think that it's possible to block or mitigate the frequencies 100%. So if that's part of what you want to use, that's fine. But just also do the other things that I said, like keeping your phone away, using your devices less. Because I think a lot of these technologies, I think that, and what we've learned from customers calling us and asking about them, is the way that they believe it works is almost like a force field. Like, I've got my sticker on my phone and it's like, I'm just protected, from everything. And that's just not how the signals work. They emit like the sun. So like your cell phone, it's like, imagine like it's emanating just like the sun emanates with sunlight. So it's all around. So like if you put a shield on one side, like it's blocking it from coming that way towards your body, but it's still going out the other sides of the phone. So that's why, and what we say is just like, we don't understand how they work. If it brings you peace of mind, also do other things, because it's not protecting you like you probably believe it is. But yeah, it's very interesting that these new things have come out, and hey, it's bringing more awareness to our industry. It's just, it does muddy the waters and confuse people even more, I think.
I appreciate that explanation, especially with the third-party testing that you have, that you guys send your products out, that it's, what did you say, military grade or?
Yeah, so we use actual labs that the military uses, and we have very specific test setups so that we can ensure the reliability of the testing setup and like the environment that the testing is being performed in. And we have our shielding just tested on all the frequencies that we choose. And then we get the report and it's like, we share it on our website. Like, this is how it performs. And it's inside all of our products. So that's how I feel like that's pretty easy to understand. I don't know how easy the other things are to understand. Some of these websites have like 20-page like studies. I don't know how. In fact, on Instagram, I saw one of these harmonizers, and the guy had a cell phone and he put the EMF meter and it was showing emissions. And then he put the harmonizer and then touched the reader to the harmonizer and there were no emissions. If that's not how you test things, first of all, you have to have space. You can't touch the meter to anything. It's not gonna read anything. It's not going to read it properly. And so there was just a lot of things wrong with that video, but that was being, shown all over the place. But we all know, can't always believe what you see on social media. And we have to do our own research.
All right, Kylen, I am going to use cell phones for this example because everyone has one. What would you say are some of the worst things you can do with your cell phone?
Sleeping with it under your pillow, 100%, like that. That's the worst thing you can do. Keeping it in your bra, keeping it near your breast tissue. There has been an increase in breast cancer correlated to women who keep their cell phone in their bra. So just keeping it on your body in any sense of the word, don't do that. When you're talking on the phone, when you can, use speakerphone. When you can't, use headphones, keeping it away from your brain. So it's just the concept of like the distance, because even an inch is better than having it directly on your body. So better is better. Yeah, I mean, I would say like that would be my advice with the cell phones. Just don't sleep with it under your pillow. Don't sleep with it charging next to your head. Keep it in airplane mode if possible. And then when you're using it day to day basis, like make a conscious effort to like have it away from your body and not against your skin, or especially your brain or your soft tissue. Your soft tissue is much more vulnerable to definitely the effects of EMFs than like your hand, for example.
I had someone on my show who had breast cancer and was talking about her cancer journey. And she said she thinks the reason she got it was because she always put her phone in her bra every day at work, when she would go on runs, when she would go to events. And most recently, I took a flight with my younger sister, and she had a fanny pack that she wore across her upper body and her chest. And I said, "How often do you wear that fanny pack?" And she said, "Not very often." "Why?" And I said, "Well, because your cell phone is in it and it's directly on your breast." And I could see her eyes were kind of like, "Oh, geez, here we go. My sister, who's into all things health and wellness and alternative medicine." But I feel like it kind of got her wheels turning.
That's all we can hope, is getting people's wheels turning. And it's funny you mentioned the fanny pack. We have a crossbody bag coming out this holiday season, and we also already have a hip pack, fanny pack, hip pack. That is one of my favorite products because it's so convenient, but it's got shielding in the back, so like you can put your phone in there and you don't have to worry about, because if you think about if you're wearing it around your waist, like that's literally up against like your
Your
ovaries, your
organ.
uterus, like that's a very sensitive part. And if it's across, like what you were saying with your sister, it's right up next to your breast tissue. So we have to, it's very sad, but I hope the person you interviewed with breast cancer, I hope she's doing well. But like she knows, like that was her intuition. And even though it can't be proven, like when you look back and it's like, oh, I was doing this in my lifestyle and not, I just know that that's what caused this. Like, and there are so many stories of women like that, or just people that have had frontal lobe brain cancer and they're like, yeah, I spent 20 years with my phone up to my head making business calls. You know,
Yep.
it's like they just know that's why. So we should all learn from that and let that not happen to us from decisions that we can change.
Yes. Okay, Kylan, I have a two-part question for you. What is the most wild thing you've seen someone do or you've heard of someone doing to protect themselves from EMFs?
Fashioning different structures out of our shielding material to wear over their whole body. That would probably be the wildest thing.
Like what? A onesie? Explain it to me.
So it's we have some very eccentric individuals that have very specific product recommendations, where you actually can find this stuff elsewhere. It might not have the same level of shielding effectiveness, but there are lots of other companies that have very obscure types of products. And people will be like, oh, I need like I need to cover my whole head, like basically like a burqa, just like their whole body, their head, and we're like, okay, well, we can sell you this material and you can make whatever you want. So that kind of gets us out of the line of fire to like actually design this stuff. Because we do try to design stuff that it's going to be like functional, but also like look good,
Mhm.
and be like something you would want to wear in public, and jackets and scarves and things that you would wear anyway, but ours just has protection in it. And I'm so sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
No, I only asked you the first part.
Okay, all right, good.
The second part of my question is, what's the most wild thing you've done to protect yourself from EMFs?
That's a great question. I'm like not, I don't know, I feel like all the things I do are pretty basic. Have anything wild? I guess somebody did. This is about my son, my older son. Somebody did give him a pair of Bluetooth headphones. like as a gift. And I just hid them away. I was like, sorry, you're not having these. And yeah, I don't know if that's wild, but that's what I did. But kids, they just
I love
forget
it.
about stuff. So, just my incessant like drilling it into their heads. Like I'm like relentless, like even if they're using like my kids, like the device that they use, if they use any device, is a tablet. And we've got it in a DefenderShield case. So I know if it's directly on their body, they have the shielding. However, I still say, if you don't need to have it on your body, don't. Like, put it off your lap. Like, don't have it on your lap. And I'll be like, you're not going to use it if you can't keep it over here away from your body. Like, I'm very extreme about it. But I feel like the more you hammer it in, they're going to remember, and they're going to, whether they want to or not, it's going to be in their subconscious. And that's how they'll learn to use these devices their whole lives. So
Now I have a trivia question for you. Do you know what is the best and natural to the environment built-in Faraday cage?
like, is there an answer to this?
Yes.
Oh, Faraday cage, natural to the environment. I honestly have no idea.
Ooh, I'm so excited to share this with you. The most natural Faraday cage built into the environment is a body of water.
Okay, so signals don't go through water. I would have never guessed
If
that.
you're feeling overwhelmed or you feel like you need to decompress and kind of mitigate that energy from being bombarded by EMFs all day, you can take a shower, a bath, or jump in the lake.
Okay, I was gonna say grounding outside, but that's not a
Yeah.
Faraday cage, so I was like, I don't know, but
But it's
okay,
still a good way to balance the ions.
okay, cool.
Kylen, as we wrap up this podcast, I ask all my guests the same closing question, which is, what haven't I asked you that you'd like my listeners to know?
Well, I always want to make sure that I talk about kids a lot, which I think I did. I'd like to say that we do have a book called Radiation Nation that was written by Daniel and Ryan DeBon, and that gives a very good overview of EMFs and just very simplifies the topic and gives studies and citations for people that want to learn more. So we have Radiation Nation, and then we also have a children's book called Henry's Tech-Free Trip. So this is written to help kids and parents alike understand the effects and why we should take breaks from our technology. So I always like to talk about the books at any time. They're great gifts. But let's see, we talked about kids, and that's like the most important thing for me is to communicate to parents about their kids. And yeah, I just want to make sure everyone knows that we control our environments. Well, we can control what we can control in our environments. We can't always completely control our environments, but feel like you can take charge and you can make changes that don't even require buying a product, right? Things we talked about the whole podcast. Just be empowered to make those changes for yourself and your family. And I hope your listeners learned a little bit and some good tips and tricks just to improve their digital wellness and reduce their exposure to what we don't know could be the effects in 20, 30 years.
Oh, I love it so much. I love that you said digital wellness. I love that you brought up the books and all your 140 products. This is why I wanted to have you on the show because your products are so amazing. I love my wired headphones. I love my phone case. I'm so thankful your company exists. Please tell my listeners, I know we've mentioned it a couple times, please tell them where they can go to buy your products.
Absolutely. So the company is called DefenderShield. So defendershield.com, Amazon as well. All of our products are on both platforms and social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok.
If people go to your website, they can use the code Ashley Deeley. Kylen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time. And yeah, hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed today's episode, a quick shout out on Instagram or leaving a review would make a positive difference. Or even better, share this podcast with someone you think might benefit from this information. You can get in touch with me on socials. I'm most active on Instagram. My handle is Ashley_Deeley. Until next time, this podcast is presented for educational and exploratory purposes only. The published content is not intended to be used for diagnosing or treating any illnesses, disease, or disorders. Those responsible for this show disclaim any responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of this information presented by myself or my guests. Please consult with your healthcare provider before using any products or services referenced in this podcast. Episodes on the Welcome to Wellness podcast may at times cover sensitive topics, including, but not limited to, depression, suicide, 5G, nootropics, circumcision, birth control, the Women's Health Initiative, the use of plants medicine, abortion, geoengineering, terrorism, gender, AI, and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You are advised to refrain from listening to this podcast if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. However, if these topics interest you, you just may have found your tribe. The information or opinions expressed on the Welcome to Wellness show are solely the views of the individuals involved and by no means represent absolute facts. Opinions expressed by the host and the guest can change at any time. The views of my guests are solely their views, and the Welcome to Wellness show does not accept responsibility for them. Any action you take based on the information contained within this podcast is strictly at your own risk. The Welcome to Wellness host, Ashley Deeley, will not be liable for any losses or damages in connections with the use of this podcast. You should take all necessary steps to ascertain the information you receive in this podcast is correct and has been verified. None of the guests or contributors on the Welcome to Wellness podcast will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Under no circumstances will the Welcome to Wellness show or my affiliates, partners, suppliers, licenses, or guests appearing on the show be liable for any direct or indirect consequences or damages arising from your ability or inability to access this podcast. All intellectual property rights belong to me, Ashley Deeley, and include, but are not limited to, the copyright and any other rights in the design. You are permitted to use the Welcome to Wellness podcast for personal use, but not for commercial use without license. You may not make recordings. If you breach these terms, you lose the right to the Welcome to Wellness podcast, and you must destroy or return any copies or recordings you've made. Guests on the Welcome to Wellness podcast may at times provide information or read extracts from third-party copyrighted work. The Welcome to Wellness podcast does not provide any medical or professional advice within these episodes and should not be used as a replacement for medical or clinical care. If you take any action or inaction as a result from the content you consume within the Welcome to Wellness podcast, this is based solely on your decision, and Ashley Deeley and the Welcome to Wellness podcast host and my guests cannot be held responsible or liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Thank you.